RCKicks, well, we're back at it again with the Agrios. This is part 2 of the build. If you haven't seen part 1, I'll put a link up here. Go check that out first, because there's no point carrying on from this. You need to watch that first. Right, done. Lovely. Well, where did we leave it last time? We were on page 11, number 16. Yeah, that's right, where we're going to do the hubs. Now, where's all... Sorry, I forgot. Here's the axles. So this is where we were at before. Now, a few of you noticed, thank you, that I'd actually missed a bearing out, and I'd left the bearing out of this side. There's 2 bearings that's sitting there. This kit really burns your bearing box, that's for sure. Yeah, there's a hell of a lot of bearings on it, but I actually missed one out. A couple of you noticed and let me know. Sure enough, I checked and it was missing, so I fitted those. Nice one, because if I'd have fitted everything, it would be a bit of a pain to get it out again, and there might have been enough play in there to start chewing up some teeth, so well spotted you. I still, the bearings that I was missing, I actually had them, but I'm still missing 2 bearings in this axle. So at some point I still will have to dismantle this, which is a bit of a shame. I have ordered them, but being we're so close to Christmas now, postage is a little bit tricky, so I don't think they're going to arrive in time before I've built it. But I'm not going to hold up the build just for that, because it won't, if they don't turn up in the next couple of days, they probably won't turn up until almost New Year. So I don't want to wait on this one, because you guys like these monster trucks. So I wanted to get this video out for you straight away. Also, I found that the bearings that go in all the hubs is the ones I don't have, exactly the same one as I don't have, but that's not too much of a problem, as they're very easy to change later on. It's not the end of the world to pop these out and change them. But when you're talking about getting back into a diff and an axle, after you've built everything up, it's a lot more work. Anyway, we're ploughing on regardless, but I would have stopped if I needed more bushes in like the other one. But with 2, I can drive it, live with it, and then at some point, if I do an upgrade or a mod, I'll probably change them. But I will go back in and do all the ones on the wheels straight away for sure. Right, okay, so we kick off with the hubs, and we need to do the steering rods. I am going to make this kit 4-wheel steer as well. I have these servos, and I'm pretty sure from what I can see in the manual, you do get both steering, so you can do the front and the back. It says it's an option in the back, but being that you have 2 of these, I assume that you have enough to actually do both, which is cool, because I definitely want 4-wheel steering. Now, a lot of you people comment saying, oh, 4-wheel steering, don't like it, you can get rid of it. Especially on the Clods, there's people that you can get like brackets that you fit that stop it. On my Clod, it works really well, so I don't have any problems with 4-wheel steer. I don't know, a lot of people say it doesn't recenter and then the truck keeps wandering, but I only have 1 truck to go on, and obviously that's modified, but it works brilliantly on that, so I'm hoping it's going to be the same on this one, because I actually like the 4-wheel steer. It means you're much more agile. But on the Clod, I can give it 4 beans and it will go in a straight line, so it kind of, you get best of both worlds really. But I can understand that if you're getting it where it's wandering constantly, then it would be annoying. Right, that's enough. Let's carry on. Page 11, number 16. Yes, unfortunately I have to use brass bushes until my bearings arrive, which means I've got to undo all these and remove them. But I didn't want to slow up the build, so I just put them in for now, and I'll change them as soon as they arrive. Okay, we're on page 11, number 16, and we're now going to use the BC10 rod, which is 3 times 132 millimeters, and you need to snip off F9 ball ends. Make sure you snip off the correct ones, as there's multiple choices on this tree. If you, like me, aren't that keen on tie rod ends, this is a nice little trick where you use 2 Allen keys and you just spin one and it will move them along the rod much quicker to get you the correct length. It saves your fingers, that's for sure. When you've fitted the BC3 step screws, make sure the hub moves freely. Also, when you're fitting the BC3 step screws, make sure the BC7 4mm washers don't fall out from underneath. I think you'll have to agree, these are some seriously chunky axles. Now, you may have seen these axles on a Juggernaut and Juggernaut 2, and the hubs you also would have seen on a Clod Buster. The way you build the axles and the hubs is identical between the two, as it doesn't matter which one you use for the front or the rear. Now we move on to number 18 on page 11. Now we're going to use the BD8, which are 111mm rods, and we need BD2 22mm screws. Now I found once you put a bit of Loctite on the end of the screw, you could screw it all the way into the BD8 without having to use an Allen key, and then just fit the ball joint end, which is a F8 part. Fitting the BD8 111mm rods to the axle is quite difficult, so I use the reverse side of a pair of snips and then just push down and it will snap them into place. Right, we're finally getting there, and we can now attach the axles to the main chassis, so it feels like we've made some progress. Don't skimp on your Loctite when you're fitting your prop shaft, otherwise it will just come loose over time. Make sure when you fit the BD11 universal joint to the BD10 prop shaft joint that you make sure you fit it the correct way round. It is possible to fit it incorrectly, and then when you go to attach it to the center gearbox, it won't fit. Once your prop shaft is fitted, you can then fit your BD9 99mm top axle shafts. Now all we do is repeat what we've just done on the other axle. Right, that's the axles into the chassis. Yeah, it's a bit of a monster, that's for sure. Right, we now move on to doing the dampers, and I'm pretty sure there's a lot of them. There's 8 of them to do, so yay, dampers. And I did some dampers yesterday, last night, didn't put it on the show or anything, and I've just blinged up my Super Astute with VQS high caps. They do fit really easily, so if you want to do that mod, no problem at all. Sorry, we digress when we're talking about high caps and dampers. Yay, 8 of them to do. Oh, it's like repeating it over and over again. Right, let's get them done and move on to more fun stuff. Now if you're feeling flush and you would like to upgrade your suspension, Tamiya offer a reserve tank aluminium shock set, which is OP1472. They are crazy expensive, and the kicker is you need 2 sets for this truck. As there's so many shocks in this kit, I find it's best to do all of them one step at a time. The springs in this kit are very soft, and you're using soft oil, so whether you actually need to have so many shocks on this kit, I honestly don't know, but it does flex better than the Clod, whereas the Clod is obviously friction shocks and it just bounces around, so this is an improvement over that. When building shocks, the best thing to do is take your time, and you want consistency across all of your shocks. Give the air time to escape. Also put a little drop of oil on the BD5 oil seals. What I'm actually doing is using a screw to set my piston lengths before I put the oil seal in. And I use the screw over and over again so that I set the piston at the same length before I seal the shock. Now you shouldn't really use a set of pliers directly onto a piston, but hey, it's what I do. Now I fitted an additional spring collar, but later on I found that I didn't need it, so I removed them all later on anyway. So there's 8 oil shocks all done. That was about as much fun as watching paint dry. Once you've done 1, you've done 8. Right, the good thing is we've done those, so we can move on and now fit them on the chassis. So we're getting closer, and hopefully we can get the wheels on, get the electronics in it, and it will actually start to look like a monster truck. Let's keep going. Don't over tighten these screws because you're screwing into quite a soft plastic, so it's very easy to strip them. Now, if the reserve tank aluminium shocks from Tamiya that are crazy expensive don't float your boat, it would be pretty easy to find some aftermarket aluminium shocks that would fit this chassis. Right, it's starting to look like a truck. Suspension feels quite good actually. Feels quite nice. I've added one collar to each one, so we'll have to see how that goes, whether it's too strong or just right. It's carrying a lot of weight. Right, next we've got to do the electronics. Now I've got two servos because I want to do dual steering. These are 35 kg SBT 5435 LV 180Ws. These are 6 volt 0.14, so not crazy fast, but strong, very strong. I'll put a link in the description to these. These should fit this perfectly. Now, I was going to run 2 silver cans, but last night on the internet, I kind of found and bought another one of these. This is a Kyosho brushed mega motor, which is a 360 Monster Truck motor. So I'm going to fit these. Now this one is a runner because it's not perfect. I've got one in the box, which is a mint one, but I've got 2 now that are runners. So I thought, hey, why not put 2 nice motors in this rig as well? So that's coming. I'll do an updated video when I do a few mods and things like that to this one. When I fit new motors. Also, the electronic speed controller is still on its way. Now, there's a few options with this. You can run one electronic speed controller that drives both motors, which is what I'm buying from Hobbywing. I'll put the information below. Or what you can do is you can have a master and slave ESCs, where you basically get one and then you cut off the control wire and then you run the second one. So one gives all the commands and the other just follows, and then you run those 2 motors. You can do that as well. I've never done it, but I've seen people do it and it looks pretty easy, to be fair. So if you wanted to run 2 separate ESCs or 2 batteries, for instance, that kind of stuff, but I like one just to keep life simple. So that's coming. Right, what else? So now we've got to fit these servos to the front and the rear. I've centered these already, so there's no issues with that. I had a look to see whether I could center them afterwards, but they actually face downwards and they kind of sit inside these protection plates, so you can't. So I've centered them already. Right, let's keep going. Huge. Now I don't know if these kit service savers are going to be any good, but I'll give them a try. If I find that there's too much wandering around and things like that, I'll upgrade them like I did on my Clod Buster. Now the ones on my Clod Buster were from Hot Racing. They're fantastic, but they are rather expensive. One thing I do like about this design is that the steering servo sits behind a plastic guard. This makes it a lot less vulnerable than the Clod Buster that sticks right out when you do the conversion and have your servo on axle. Make sure you feed the steering arm through the hole before you fit the plate, otherwise you'll be unscrewing it because you cannot adjust it once it's in place. Okay, so the front and rear servo, or the rear and the front, not sure yet. These trucks tend to be identical front to rear, so I'm not quite sure. I'm guessing this is the front. Oh, anyway, we'll figure it out. So the servos go in, all the steering is done. From here down is pretty much finished. What we got next to do is the battery tray, the electronics, all that kind of stuff sort of sits in the cradle at the top here. Then we've got to put the hubs and the wheels on, and it will look like a monster truck. So we're getting close. It's getting very heavy. I think it's heavier than the Clod. We'll weigh them and we will compare them, and there will be a head-to-head video for sure. Right, let's keep going and see if we can finish it up. The BB6 plate that I'm fitting now is where you actually mount your electronics. So this gives you a big option for space, as well as additional place for fans, so you can have cold air blowing across your motors. It's nice to see quite a large battery tray, so this should give you some options. You should easily be able to run 2 or 3S in this, or maybe more. Now we're finally on the home straight. We've just got to fit the body mounts, the battery tray and the huge wheels, and we can pretty much say it's done with the chassis, and now we can focus on the body. A lot of people seem to swap out the kit tyres and rims for Clod Buster rims and tyres. I guess that looks more realistic from a monster truck point of view. Because of the cost implications, I'll run it like this and see whether I like it or not first. And there we have it, pretty much all done. Well, the chassis anyway. Luckily the electronics just fit in the top here, so it's nice and easy to do once it arrives. Also, it's really cool to see that you can actually mount some fans in here to blow air down onto the motor, so that's pretty cool. Quite a large space, so I should easily be able to get a 2 to 3S LiPo in this. It's nice and square, so it should drop straight in. Also, these kind of chassis braces, you can just take them off as well, so that's quite cool. The suspension is actually really good on this. I actually enjoy building this more than I did the Clod, even though like most monster trucks, the front and back are pretty much identical, so you can get a little bit bored if you're doing something tedious at the front, because you know you've got to do it on the back, because you end up with a build like this and the Clod doing everything twice. Building each diff twice, building each axle twice, building each side of the chassis twice, building, so it's that basically. But this one didn't, I actually quite enjoyed this one, whereas I did find the Clod was a little bit tedious on some bits until I sorted the chassis out, and then I really enjoyed myself. But anyway, we digress. So what's next? Well, as soon as the electronics come, I'll fit them. As soon as the motors arrive, I will upgrade them. Once the bearings arrive, I will do that. I'll probably do that off camera though, because that's just dismantling and putting back together again. Right, what's next? Now we have a monster body to do. So we've got to paint that up. I'm not sure if that's 2 colors or 1. I think it's black pretty much. Shouldn't be too difficult to do. It's actually got the marks where I need to drill as well, and cutting out looks super simple because it's just so big. Decal wise, decals don't look too bad. I still don't like, I can see these lightning are taken from the Vajra, sorry. My Ivanti 4x4, that's exactly the same. Don't really like those, and when you look on the box you don't actually see them, so I'm not sure whether I'll actually fit those as I took them off the Vajra. Right, these all look, you get loads of these which actually go down on the metal chassis, but you actually cut them out as a single lump, but whether I'll actually bother to cut them out individually, we'll have to see how my patience holds up. I quite like these decals, they're pretty cool. Right, let's crack on and cut out the body. Check out one of these videos for some more RC fun.